welcome to the channel and welcome to another car review. And this is the Foxbody Mustang. Now this particular one is a 91 version, and man, it actually goes. It has 410s in the back. Now stock, the engine in this would be a 302 V8, which is dubbed the 5.0. Actually it would have been a 4.9, but you know, 5.0 just sounds a whole lot better. What makes it even more funny that this is called a 5.0 is that they had the SSB models, which wore the notches that they used for police, which is freaking awesome. You had a police Mustang that you could order back in the day. So police were roaming the streets in these cars catching speeders, which is, I think it's freaking awesome. It's not cool if you were a speeder back in the day, but still, you know. Now the cool thing to note about the Foxbody platform is that it originated in 1977 and went all the way to 93. And then of course, as Mustang fans know, it continued on in the SN95 platform till 2004. So you get this entire run. It is actually one of the longest lived Ford platforms. The only one that beat this platform was the Panther platform, which is, you know, of course, the Crown Vic, the Mercury Grand Marquis, the Marauder, Lincoln Town Car. Another cool thing to note about the Fox platform is that it wasn't just the Mustang that had it. There was a bunch of Mercurys that had it, and even a Lincoln, like the Lincoln LSC, Lincoln Sport Coupe, it had a Foxbody platform. So I consider the Foxbody Mustang the car that saved the Mustang, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, because of the 5.0 badge. It is an understanding and it is an icon because of that badge. And even now, the 5.0 is what the Mustang is. And because the performance came back, the owners of the Mustang, they cared about this car. And when Ford decided to float the idea of a front-wheel drive Mustang, aka the Probe, they came up in arms and they said, Ford, you can't do this. This is an icon. You can't replace an icon with what essentially was a Japanese car. You just can't do that. And lo and behold, the Mustang was saved. And that's something that I still don't understand, is that the 4th generation Mustang could have been a front-wheel drive car if the owners didn't love this thing. And actually, there was a reason why they couldn't love it as well. And it is something that this car does not have a problem with, and that is the engine. They actually came out with a 4.2 liter V8 back in 1980 and 81, and it made, wait for it, a grand total of 120 horsepower. So this car had the dubious honor of having the lowest horsepower V8 Mustang ever produced, which is crazy to me because everyone dislikes the Mustang 2 with a passion, even though that car in itself kept Mustang afloat as well because it was one of the most sold Mustangs in the world. And actually, the Foxbody, even though it had a long run, it never had a year where it outsold the Mustang 2 for some reason. And I love the way this car accelerates. Even though this has an automatic, I don't really care too much because it moves. With the 410s, it's freaking nice. Now the speedo is a little bit off, and you're gonna be revving about 2600 RPM if I'm doing the calculations right at 60, but it's not too bad at all. And another thing to note is that this car is owned by a 16-year-old, and this is his first car. And how cool is that? I had a Peugeot 305 as my first car, and here's a 16-year-old that has a freaking icon, a Mustang GT, as his first car. And it shifts very nice too. It also doesn't give you a real kick like the current transmissions do, but you know, it's also an older car. You can't believe that the Mustang Foxbody at this point in time is over 25 years old. Well over 25 years old. This is a 91, so it is technically a classic car, which it's hard to understand, at least for someone like me that has grown up seeing all these Mustangs go, and you think, okay, well the true classics are the ones from the 60s. But this now becomes the classic car for essentially my generation, because I think my generation, I could have had one of these in high school, maybe. Now, one thing that obviously comes up always is the styling of the car. It was a complete departure from the Mustang 2, which in my book, I think is cool. Even though I'm gonna go full disclosure here, I would completely rock a King Cobra Mustang 2, but you never heard that from me. I think the cool thing about this car is that it came out in '79 and it has that iconic 80s styling with it. Hard lines for freaking days. Comes back in the interior as well. And it doesn't matter which one you get either. They all look freaking great. Convertible, notch, or this one, which is my favorite body style, the hatchback. So everyone's gonna have their favorites, and I bet for a lot of people it is going to be the Cobra at the tail end of production. But for me, it is actually going to be the 82. And the reason why it is the 82 is because it freaking looks like the Mad Max car. The front air dam, look it up. The Foxbody actually came out in a pace car version, and the pace car, without a doubt, has that front air dam on it. It looks absolutely amazing, and it looks like the freaking Mad Max car from the front. That is actually not that bad on this suspension either. The railroad tracks, it's a token thing. Last time I was over here, I actually reviewed an old school Mustang, which, you know, it's kind of cool being in an older Mustang again and driving kind of that same route. And that's what it's all about, man. Just a little bit of go-go. And these brakes, even though it has drum brakes in the back, it's not bad at all. They stop this car adequately enough for the power that it has. Of course, it doesn't hold a candle to something like that. Actually, that's just Chevy and we're in a Ford, so we're just gonna ignore that. Now, this particular car is a 91, so of course it looks a whole lot different from the earlier models, and I still love the styling on these. They keep these current. This has, of course, that kind of 90s bubbly front end, but the interior still looks decidedly 80s. Another thing that I love this car for is that this was the gap between old school and new school. The old school carbureted cars and the new school fuel injected cars, which this is a fuel injected car. Another thing that you just gotta love is that you can put all the things from the 03 and 04 Cobras on these cars, because the platform, the SN95, was a continuation essentially from the Foxbody platform, and I freaking love that stuff. And when it comes down to the dials on the interior over here, it's also decidedly freaking 80s as well. I freaking love it. The only upside to this car, get that railroad crossing again, is that you have 140 miles an hour on the speedo, whereas of course the 80s ones, some of the 80s ones, capped out at 85 because of that weird regulation that they had, because they thought, you know what, people are gonna slow down if there's only 85 miles an hour on the speedo. And how well did that work out? Probably not very well if you talk to the cops of the area. And then of course you have these seats, which I'm freaking amazed that these seats are 90,000 plus miles old, because yes, they're soft, but they're still super comfortable, and they still have somewhat of a side bolstering as well. The interior color on this I also absolutely freaking love. Like the new cars, they have all that plastic stuff just like this one has, but the execution on these is just, in my book, way better. And then you have these door cards, 90+ thousand mile door cards, and they look like that, and they're not freaking falling apart either. Look at my 05 Mustang GT, which is already starting to fall apart. That insert, why can't Ford make door cards like they used to? Another thing to note about the interior on this car is that you actually have some decent room in the back to sit, which is amazing because all the current Mustangs, you don't have any of that. And another thing that Ford needs to do is get that current Mustang platform into other cars, like the Foxbody, because the Foxbody, great value for Ford because so many other cars ran on this platform. Why doesn't Ford do what everyone wants? Bring back a rear-wheel drive V8 powered sedan. Now let's talk about the original performance figures for a second. 0 to 60, it was a 6-second car, and the quarter mile, it was a 15-second car. So by today's standards, that's not fast at all, but back then, that was pretty good. Now this one is obviously going to be just a little bit quicker because it has the 410 gears, it has the aluminum drive shaft, it has shorty headers, full exhaust system, it has an E-cam in it, so it'll make a little bit more power over stock, and you feel it when you get going from a dig. You feel that it puts you in your seat quite nicely, and even when you're going right here, right now, and you just get on it just a little bit, you know that there's power there. It is not a slow car by any means, and especially since this car is owned by a 16-year-old. I think a lot of 16-year-olds can wish to have a cool car like this, a freaking icon. I love it because it saved the Mustang, because it brought back the performance, because it is such a freaking icon right now. And yes, there's a ton of people that bastardize these cars, that put freaking LS motors in it. But on the other end of the spectrum, I go, you know what? I'm not even mad because it keeps these cars alive. It keeps these cars in the news. You see them on the racetrack with an LS, I don't care. Just to illustrate that this car does get up and go. Right now, we're about 30 miles an hour. I'm gonna put my foot in it. I mean, that is not bad at all, guys. Not bad at all. And there's another reason why this actually feels quick, and that's because of the weight. These cars clock in at just over 3,000 pounds. It's a stark contrast to my Mustang even, which is 3,600 plus pounds, and the current Mustangs that, yeah, well, I'm not even gonna bring that up. So the conclusion on this one, it's a freaking simple one, a really simple one. Let me get on these brakes here real quick, and I'll explain exactly why. If you're 16 years old, like Josh, who's sitting next to me, and you have a Mustang like this, and that is what it's all about. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. It was a blast for me, the first Foxbody Mustang that I've driven in my life, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Ooh, nice. And where's the clutch?
Oh yeah.
Where's the clutch? This is running right.
My friend Brendan's Mach has a clutch. I mean, it's a Tremec, I think.
Man, overpowered power steering. It never used to be an all-way stop. Someone's had fun here.
Yeah.
That's cool that this car is full option. AC. Jeez, man, I'm sweating like a pig now.
I'm starting to sweat.
Huh?
I'm starting to sweat.
Wow. It is getting freaking crazy.
So I have like, we have to wear all black. So it's pretty fun going to work, especially sitting in like rush hour traffic.
Oh yeah. But at least you can lower down the windows.
Yeah, that's a nice thing. It has very large windows.
Yeah, you can just lower them. And you get, yes. Because this is really not bad with the windows down.
Yeah.
The only problem that you're going to get is, you know, the wind noise.
Yeah.
Now, don't make me a liar. I'm leaving these windows down. And if I'm not hearing any wind noise right now, I've done this entire review sweating my ass off for no reason. That's an outtake. This is nice. This is great. There's a window.
You actually put your like arms to the side.
Just do this. I mean, I'm completely down driving a car like this without AC
like
right now.
Day.
Night and day. I think that's a pretty solid ending right there.
That's pretty good.
Smooth. Oh, these windows.
Now you got it.
We're done.
It's good now. Yeah, it's like sunny outside. It's kind of hot. It's like not that bad.
No, this is great, man. Especially since the inside of the car is probably freaking 90 degrees.
Yeah.
I do not mind this at all. You have a little bit of overcast. You open up the window. This is the way to drive this car around. The AC will make a return.
Yeah. I think once I put a blower and all that power, there's no point not putting an AC in.
Oh yeah. That's another thing. I really wonder how many people watch these outtakes, because the owner has plans to put a blower on this car, and he told me that after he's done that, he'll allow me to review it again. I think that is going to paint a whole different story for me. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be so freaking cool. Oh man, this is good. This is good. No, this is freaking nice right here. I don't mind this.